I found the letter tucked inside my late husband's Bible, the one he used only for funerals and court hearings. The gold-trimmed pages cracked when I turned them brittle from both time and pretense, and there it was, wedged between Psalms and Proverbs. A white envelope, no stamp, just my name in his sharp mechanical printing, Miriam. That morning had already felt strange. My youngest son Eli had left for Oregon. My house, once brimming with bickering and burnt toast, now echoed with quiet. The only sound was the faint jazz hum from the neighbor's porch speaker and the ticking of the clock, both relentless. The wedding had been 3 days ago. My eldest Claire had finally married Ben Waverly, tall, polished. The kind of man whose handshake feels like a contract. They danced to Nora Jones and fed each other cake like they were auditioning for a Hallmark sequel. I hadn't cried. I'd smiled too widely, drank too little, and watched Claire carefully noting the way she deferred to Ben, the way she paused before answering him, the way her voice seemed just a note, quieter than it used to be. She didn't know about the inheritance. None of them did. After Roger passed, I was contacted by a woman named Maritza from his old law firm. Offshore holdings, apparently. Years of hush-hush settlements and land swaps had culminated in a hidden account worth $7 million, untouched, untraceable. I didn't even know what to feel when she said the number out loud, just that my knees gave out and I had to sit down in the middle of the kitchen floor. I didn't tell anyone, not because I didn't trust my kids, but because I did, and trust is a dangerous thing when money enters the room. So I hid it. I set up a tiered estate plan, equal shares to all 3 children, locked in a blind trust, staggered releases over years. No one could pull more than their share. No one could override the others, not unless all parties agreed. Claire was the most responsible, the one who took me to doctor appointments, reminded me to drink more water, the one I thought I could count on most. That's why the letter scared me, because it wasn't from Roger. It was from Ben. Inside, typed on embossed cream stock, were 2 pages titled Proposed Amendments to Miriam Roth's Estate Trust. I read each line twice, then a third time. It recommended dissolving the blind trust structure and consolidating the estate under a simplified beneficiary model, namely Claire, my daughter, as sole executor and majority heir. A sentence at the bottom. We believe this update better reflects Miriam's current relationships and intentions. I stared at the paper until the lines blurred, because I never said anything of the sort, and no one, especially not Ben Waverly, should know the estate even exists. I folded the letter back into its envelope and walked out to the porch, the heat sticking to my skin like guilt. A butterfly scraped against the screen door, trying to escape something it couldn't see, and I wondered, how long had they been planning this? How much did Claire know? Was this just a husband being ambitious, or a daughter becoming a stranger? Tomorrow I would ask her. Tonight I would make a copy of that letter and place the original somewhere no one would ever find again. The inheritance had been a blessing, but I was starting to see how it might become a curse. I asked Claire to lunch the next day, just the 2 of us. No Ben, no distractions. We met at a quiet place she used to love when she was in college. Dark wood tables, soup and bread bowls, polite waiters who didn't hover. She was already seated when I arrived, waving with that same crooked grin she'd had since braces. But something about her felt tight, polished in a way that didn't belong to her. Her nails were a shade of beige I'd never seen her wear. Her blazer looked tailored, expensive. She didn't order her usual. No soup, no tea, just sparkling water, no lemon. How's married life? I asked, lightly. She smiled too fast. Busy. Ben has so many meetings lately. But we're good, really good. I nodded and stirred my coffee, listening to the sound of the spoon hit porcelain. Tick, 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 Claire, I said. Eyes locked on hers. Why did Ben write me that letter? Her smile faltered, only for a moment. Then it returned bigger, brighter, faker. Oh, Mom, that wasn't supposed to scare you. He just thought it'd be easier if you had one person handling things. You know, for when you're older. When I'm older. She laughed awkwardly. You know what I mean? It's just logistics. But the letter says I want you to inherit everything. That's not logistics, Claire. That's rewriting bloodlines. She flushed, then a soft pink creeping up her neck. Look, Ben's just thinking long term. He's trying to simplify. It's not like Eli or Jonah even live here anymore. I froze. Eli called. Last night, I said carefully, he said he got a strange email from someone on Ben's legal team, asking for his signature on something he didn't understand. Claire's fork paused mid-air. That must have been a mistake. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope, set it gently between us on the table. You shouldn't know about the inheritance, Claire. So how did Ben find out? She stared at it like it might explode. Her voice when it came was soft. He found some papers in the attic. From Dad's old briefcase. That briefcase was locked. He picked it. I blinked. Claire's eyes were glassy now. I told him to leave it alone. I did. But he said it was better if we had full transparency. That families fall apart over secrets. Families fall apart over betrayal too, I wanted to say. But my mouth was too dry. I looked at my daughter. Really looked. And in that moment I realized something that chilled me to my bones. She wasn't scared of what she'd done. She was scared I might undo it. We finished lunch in silence. As she walked to her car, I watched her from the window. Her shoulders stiff. Her head held too high. I used to think she had her father's eyes. Now I wasn't so sure. When I got home, I called my lawyer and asked him the question I never thought I'd have to ask about my own daughter. What happens if someone tries to tamper with a trust before I'm even dead? He sighed. That depends. Do they have access? Signatures legal standing? Not yet, I said, but I think they're getting close. I paused, and I think they know things they shouldn't. 3 days later, a courier delivered a manila folder to my porch. No return address. Just my name again. Miriam Roth. Typed neatly in the center. Inside a full draft of a revised estate plan. Claire Roth Waverly, sole executor. Claire Roth Waverly, primary beneficiary. The justification. Updated familial relevance and caretaking proximity. A cold string of syllables dressed up to sound like love. I scanned the rest, my hands trembling. A clause stood out. The secondary heirs, Jonah Roth and Elijah Roth, will retain discretionary disbursements, contingent upon Claire Roth Waverly's written approval. In plain English, my sons would get scraps if Claire felt like it. They were still my children. They'd built my deck, painted the house when Roger died, made me laugh when I thought I'd never smile again, and now they were being rewritten, erased by the daughter who used to braid their hair and boss them around with a glittered clipboard. I grabbed my phone and called Claire, straight to voicemail. Then again, still nothing. I wasn't stupid. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a move. I called my lawyer, Daniel Navarro, and told him everything. He exhaled hard when I finished. I hope you didn't sign anything, Miriam. I'm old, Daniel, and I'm not dead. I'll need to see the papers. I'll drop them off tonight. There was a pause, and Miriam, be careful. People do ugly things for money, especially when they think they're owed. I did what I always do when I'm angry. I baked 3 lemon loaves and a batch of molasses cookies. And still, the fury burned in my chest, a pressure I hadn't felt since I was 19 and found Roger drunk in the car with my cousin, Claire, my helper, my worrier, my girl with the soft heart and hard shell. Was she really doing this? Or was Ben pulling every string? And if she was going along with it, did it matter who started the fire? That night, I sent an email to both my sons. I didn't say everything, not yet, but I told them I loved them, that nothing in the world, nothing could change how much they mattered to me. Jonah replied an hour later. Did something happen, Mom? Yes, something happened. You're being erased. But I didn't say that, not yet. The next morning, I walked out to the mailbox and found another envelope, this one with a wax seal, Ben's firm. Inside was a letter labeled Urgent Request for Amendment Confirmation. It included a signature line for me, and a second already filled out. Claire Roth Waverly. I read it 3 times. She'd signed it. Without talking to me again, without asking. I didn't know what burned hotter, my betrayal or my shame for ever believing I'd raised someone better. But one thing was now certain. This wasn't just an attempt to simplify my estate. It was a hostile takeover. I didn't cry. I went quiet, cold. There's a kind of silence that comes from knowing your child has calculated the price of your love and found it expendable. I wore that silence like armor as I stood in Daniel's office watching him flip through the paperwork Claire and Ben had so carefully prepared. He didn't speak for a full 2 minutes. Then he looked up, brows tight. This isn't just aggressive, he said. This is predatory. I thought so. I murmured, "They're positioning Claire as your full fiduciary, and if you sign this, the trust dissolves. The boys lose their protected status. All assets transfer to her sole discretion. This is textbook coercion." I nodded. "She signed her part already. That makes it worse." He tapped the last page. "If you hadn't shown this to me, if you'd just signed, they could have enacted this without a judge. And if I die before fixing it, then Claire becomes sole authority, and your sons would have to fight her in probate. And trust me, by then everything could be moved, hidden, gone." I let that sink in. So I made a decision. "I want to amend the original trust," I said. "Lock it down. Make it airtight. No amendments. No override clauses. Full protection for Jonah and Eli. And add a failsafe clause." Daniel looked intrigued. "What kind of failsafe?" "If any one beneficiary tries to modify the structure without full notarized consent from all 3 siblings, they forfeit their share." Daniel finished a slow smile, forming. "Exactly." He leaned back. "That'll hold. It'll send a message." "No," I corrected him. "It'll send a consequence. We worked late into the night, drafted notarized, filed. I didn't want to punish Claire. I wanted to stop Ben. But Claire had walked the path, signed the line. I couldn't pretend she was innocent anymore." The next morning, I received an email from Ben's paralegal. Subject line, "Time-sensitive final signatures needed." I replied with one sentence, "All estate matters are now being handled by my legal counsel. Further contact should go through Daniel Navarro." It took them 24 hours to respond. Ben called me directly. "Hi, Miriam," he said, voice smooth like glass. "Got your email. Just a little confused." "Thought we were aligned on all this." I paused, then said flatly, "You forged alignment by leaving my sons out of the equation." He laughed softly. "Claire told me you'd overreact. I haven't even started." Silence, then, "Look, we're just trying to secure things for the future." "You mean your future, not mine? And certainly not theirs. You've got to admit Miriam Claire's done more for you than the boys. She's earned it." My hands clenched. "My love isn't a meritocracy, and my estate isn't a bribe." He switched tones fast. "You know these decisions don't look good if you ever lose capacity. We could argue undue influence. You're close to 70, right?" And there it was. Not charm, not concern, threat. "If you ever say anything like that again," I said evenly, "you won't just lose your place in this family. You'll meet a lawyer that makes you wish you'd gone into sales." Click. I hung up. My chest was tight. My hands shook. But I had never felt clearer. That night I called Jonah, told him everything, told him about the money, the trust, the signature. He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Mom, do you think Claire even knows what she signed?" "I did," I said. "But I don't know anymore." Claire showed up unannounced the next evening, winded from climbing the porch steps, her cheeks flushed, eyes already glossy. She held a takeout bag in one hand, my favorite curry, and a folder in the other. "I thought we could talk," she said, trying to smile. I stepped aside, gesturing her in. She moved like someone approaching a sick animal. I didn't offer small talk. I just sat. She set the folder down between us on the kitchen table and pushed the food away. I know about the new trust terms," she said quietly. "Ben showed me your lawyer's filings, so he's reading my legal correspondence now." She winced. "That's not fair. No, Claire." "What's not fair is erasing your brothers from my estate and expecting me to smile while you call it logistics." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to be like that. Ben said it was just a draft, that we could adjust it. After I signed away everything." She looked at me, then her eyes brimming. "Mom," he made it sound like Jonah and Eli wouldn't care, that they're gone building their lives, and I'm here, that I've been here. Appointments, groceries, wiping down your counters. So you traded them for a payout." Her breath hitched. "It wasn't like that." I stood, walked to the window. The garden outside had gone to seed. Nothing blooming. The silence between us hummed like a second heartbeat. "I gave each of you a share," I said finally, "not because of who did the most, but because I raised you to protect one another." She looked at the folder again, her voice dropping. "Ben doesn't want me talking to you until things settle." I turned. "And what do you want? Claire?" She didn't answer, so I opened the folder. Inside, a typed statement, dated yesterday. A handwritten note was clipped on top. "Just sign this. It dissolves everything. Clean slate. We'll take care of the rest." It was Claire's handwriting. She watched me reading it like a child waiting to be scolded. You're in deep, I whispered. Her hands curled into fists. I didn't know how deep until it was too late, and now she hesitated. Then barely above a whisper, I'm pregnant. My mouth went dry. She pressed her hands to her stomach, eyes filling. I haven't even told Ben yet. I found out this morning. Every instinct in me flared. Grief, guilt, love, protection, fear. That baby is mine too, I said softly, in every way that matters. Claire nodded, a tear streaking down her cheek. That's why I came. I can't let this go further. I need to undo this, Mom. But I'm scared. I walked over and took her hand. I'm scared too, I said. But you're not alone. She looked up, hope flickering behind the hurt. But Ben, she whispered, then we don't play defense anymore. We play offense. The first thing I did was bring Claire to Daniel's office, not for advice, for evidence. We laid it all out. Emails, drafts, voice memos Ben had left on her phone without knowing they auto-backed up to her cloud. One in particular made Daniel's eyes narrow. Ben's voice. Once your mom signs, we push it through probate immediately. If she hesitates, I'll handle it. We'll say she's showing signs slipping. Early cognitive decline. She's 71. It's not a stretch. Claire sat across from me, pale and shaking. I said nothing, just let the weight of his voice hang in the air. Daniel pressed pause. That's coercion, possible fraud, possibly more. Claire looked up, eyes hollow. Do you think he'd actually say I helped him? That I lied? Daniel was firm. He doesn't need to say it. If your name's on the documents, he'll drag you down with him, and he'll walk away clean. She swallowed hard. Then what do? Daniel smiled, sharp and quiet. We set the bait. We gave Ben exactly what he wanted, a final version of the amendment, neatly formatted, fake routing numbers, Claire's name in bold. We left it unsecured on her laptop, just accessible enough. Claire sent him a text that night, Mom's finally caving. She just wants it over. I'll bring the papers by tomorrow. He replied in less than 2 minutes, smart. Get it signed before she changes her mind. We'll have the notary ready. We waited. At 2:14 a.m., our honeypot account pinged with an unauthorized login attempt, same proxy Ben had used before. He copied the file, opened it 3 times. At 9 a.m., Claire showed up to their apartment with a decoy folder and a hidden recording device in her coat pocket. I stayed in the car with Daniel, watching the window. 20 minutes passed, then 30. At minute 42, she walked out alone, face flushed, jaw clenched. She got in the car and handed Daniel the mic. He asked me to backdate the signature, she said, her voice shaking. Said if your memory slipped later, he could argue you'd signed while still of sound mind. I asked, what would happen if my brothers found out? He said. She trailed off. Daniel hit play. Ben's voice again, smug and unbothered. Who's gonna believe 2 absentee brothers over the daughter who's been by her side the whole time? Come on, Claire. You're the only one who's earned this. It was over. That night, we served Ben a cease and desist letter, attached a full report to the State Bar Association, flagged for ethical violations, potential fraud, and coercive manipulation of a vulnerable elder. By morning, he'd lawyered up and gone dark, but he wasn't quick enough. 2 days later, Claire filed for separation. Her prenup buried in the fine print triggered an immediate freeze on shared assets if coercion could be proved in court. Daniel's team handed over the digital forensic trail audio files, the forged drafts. Everything. Ben blinked, stalled, then tried to settle quickly. But Claire refused. No, she said steady and certain. You don't get out clean. By the end of the week, he signed a full release of claims. The trust untouched. My son safe. Claire free. We sat in my living room the night it all ended, wine glasses full, the kind of silence between us that felt earned. She looked older, and stronger, and sadder. He never touched me, she said suddenly. But the things he said, I took her hand. He won't say anything else. Not to you, not ever. She nodded, tears brimming, but she didn't let them fall. I'm going to raise this baby differently, Mom. I smiled finely. Then this was worth it. Claire moved back in with me a week later. Just for a while, she said, until she could breathe again. Her brothers flew in too, Jonah from Austin, Eli from Portland. We didn't tell them everything, just enough. Eli hugged Claire a long time. Jonah said nothing, just held her hand. She broke down then, said sorry, over and over. They didn't ask for more. They just showed up. That's the thing about family, real family. It doesn't need perfect words. We repainted the nursery together. Claire picked soft greens and a rocking chair with creaky arms. She brought out the stuffed lamb Jonah gave her at 12. When she placed it on the shelf, she whispered, "He doesn't get to ruin this." Ben sent one letter after it all. No apology. Just a list of items he wanted returned. A coffee grinder, a winter coat, the espresso machine. Claire burned it in the fireplace while Eli played guitar in the background. I never mentioned the $7 million again, but I rewrote the trust one last time. 3 heirs. One guardian clause for the child, should Claire ever need it, and a letter to be opened when I'm gone, addressed to the grandchild I haven't met yet. It starts, "The world will try to tell you that money equals safety, but what really saves you are people who stay, people who fight for you, people who admit when they've made a terrible human mistake and then change." Claire framed a sonogram next to that letter. The lemon trees out back started blooming early that spring. Every morning she makes tea and stands at the kitchen window, one hand resting on her growing belly, the other holding the cup I gave her at 15, the one that says, "Strong women scare weak men." One morning she turned to me and said, "I want to teach her everything you taught me." Before I forgot it, I smiled, tears surprising me. "You didn't forget. You just needed to find your way back." She nodded. We were quiet for a moment. Then she said the one thing I never expected to hear. "Do you think Dad would have been proud of me?" I looked at her, strong, flawed, unbroken, and said, "Yes, and terrified of you." She laughed. It was real this time. Free. What would you have done if you were her? Leave a comment. Your story could be the one that helps someone else wake up. Know someone walking on thin ice with a charming liar. Share this with them. Maybe it's the nudge they need to look closer. And if you want more stories where the quiet ones fight back and secrets never stay buried, subscribe to Everglimpse. We tell the truths families don't talk about.